If you're new around here, we got some housekeeping, so you might want to skip forward. There's always... Hi. So there's stuff I want to do that doesn't make sense to do the way things are. For example, I kind of want to settle this gusset debate once and for all, and the only way to settle the gusset debate that I can see is to make two identical sweaters, same yarn, same pattern, everything, same size, one with gussets and one without. Which I would love to do, and I don't mind taking the extra time to do it. But then I'd end up with two sweaters that are exactly the same, and that would be totally useless. So I decided I'm going to take a cue from James Hoffman, the coffee guy. He's clever. And what he does is he has a Patreon. And at his Patreon, they support him. He then can buy the things that he wants to review or do whatever, and then he gives those back. Obviously, he's not buying a grinder for everybody, but one person will get a grinder, and then the next time someone else will get something, and the next time, and the next, and the next. And so it perpetuates the cycle. I like this idea, but it's not quite enough for me. So what I did was I made something I'm calling Mod Squad. Because if you've been around here for a while, you know I'm a dork. And that's the kind of thing I like. Mod Squad is a Discord server. And it's a Discord server with the intention of collecting people who like to modify their garments and helping each other along that path. Because it is a bit of a journey, right? You don't just wake up one day and get it right. It takes a little time. And it's nice to have support along the way. So, that is the current plan. If you would like, there will be a link down in the description box. Oh, and the cost. And I can't just do anything normally, can I? The cost is 2 cups of coffee a month. Whatever your actual price of coffee is. And that way, I can make 2 sweaters, solve the gusset question, and then give those 2 sweaters to 2 patrons. And I have not wasted time or energy. That's the goal anyway. We'll see how it goes. Got some moody lighting going on today. It's not sunny at all. It hasn't been sunny in a while. That's okay. It'll be sunny again. I'm working on the vest. Which I'm really psyched about. This is sort of the upside of... Sorry, I'm laughing at my markers because I was very good this time. I always forget. And I didn't forget this time. When I switch sections, I throw a marker in that row so that I can double check my count, because I use the ring when I need to count. And a solid quarter of the time, I forget to turn it. Like, I just forget. So, I mean, it's right there. It's the closest I've come to something that functions, but it still doesn't function. I've got some footage for you of me trying on the vest just after I joined it, which is just making sure, because I don't know, I went really off script on this one, because I had knit this vest before, and because I had knit it before, I knew the changes that I wanted to make. I wanted to make the armholes less deep, which would also give me a little bit more coverage on the side because of the depth on the last one. And it didn't bother me, but it was just that little bit too skinny. And so I wanted it to start getting wider a little bit higher. So I raised the armholes. Raised the armholes, connected the fronts before I connected the armholes though, which hopefully the fit doesn't get too weird. I mean, that's always the danger, right? When you're doing, like, anything that involves this region is dangerous because you don't know how it's going to move differently. You don't know. You're guessing. It might work. It should work, but it might not work. And so, all I can do is apply my knowledge and hope for the best. And I think it's going to work. But it's possible that it will end up riding up in weird ways or doing something like that. And the only way I'm going to know that is when I'm wearing it and it's done. Which, didn't I say? I keep doing this. I realized when I was editing my last episode that I would start a topic and then wander off it and never return to it. So, I was talking about putting markers so that I can double check by counting the rows that I am in fact where I am. And that I have in fact done what I think I've done. Because theoretically, my modifications are sound, but if I don't do them the same on both sides, that'd be bad. I also got to learn from my mistakes. Not mistakes, but a lot of the times when I'm following a pattern, I'm not always sort of alert to little details that later I'm like, why didn't I do that? So on this one, when you join it in the round at the underarms, you just knit across it. And of course, because of the nature of fabric, the front and the back are going to, because of the direction the stitches were going in until that point, they're going to sort of pull away from each other, which will give you a little bit, as I have on the current vest, a little bit of laddering. And all that I had to do, which I've done on this one, is cable the front and last stitches. Just cross those two stitches so that the way that the following fabric is going is pulling it in the opposite direction, so it's going to keep it nice and clean and tidy. No, I've done that before. It has worked, so I don't see why it wouldn't work again. And so that's me being kind of a dork, not thinking of that. Why didn't I think of that? Of course that's true. I am planning on leaving the armholes raw again, because I really like that. I like this sort of, it's very, to me, J. Crew in the 1980s. I don't really remember J. Crew in the 1980s, but I feel like it's J. Crew in the 1980s, where you had this sort of semi-casual, like when you have ribbing along here, I feel like it's too clean. But I don't know if that's actually a thing, but it feels just that little bit too tailored and structured. And so when you don't have that, then it casuals it out a little bit, which is the direction I like to go. Can I talk about how much I love this fabric? I did go for the 22 over 4 inches, and oh my god, I love this fabric. I'm really happy with this fabric. It's so pretty. And it's doing exactly what I want it to do. But it's just so pretty. And then I have that problem where I'm so excited to wear the object that I start rushing through the knitting. I don't want to rush through the knitting. I don't have that much yarn. I mean, I'm getting a bit of a stash. As we know, I have like 3 whole skeins to do something with. I don't want to rush through it. I don't know. It's really funny because I keep sort of going faster and then going, nope, slow down, woman. Slow the hell down. Enjoy the process. And I do enjoy the process. So, just, I gotta keep myself from getting too excited. That's okay. It works. It happens. But yeah, I did a lot of modifications, some of which, it's annoying. I mean, that's the downside of paid patterns, right? Is that I can't give you exactly what I did because I don't want you figuring out how to make the vest. And it's why I don't like posting pictures of, that's how I cheat. If I'm curious as to how something is constructed, I go through all the projects and I look at people's in process and then I figure out how it was constructed. And then I feel bad, because if I already figured out how it's constructed, I'm probably not going to buy the pattern. So I try to not do that. I try to not do that when I'm the one taking the project photos. So, I mean, there's enough ways to construct something that even when it's a pretty straightforward construction, you probably don't want to give it away. But because it's worth buying the pattern, right? If something is constructed beautifully, you want to know exactly how they constructed it, not just theoretically, but you want to know for sure. So, I don't know. I'm rambly again today. It's because it's the weekend and I'm chilling out. I also tried to measure. I did try to, not measure, but yeah, because I have another vest of the exact same kind. As I go, I can sort of lay it over and make sure that my target is happening, which is very hard to do accurately. I'm probably, it's knits. So short of pinning them together, which I'm way too lazy to do, I'm just getting a basic idea. But I mean, I guess that's going to be close enough. I suppose we'll find out when this is done and it's on my body whether close enough is good enough. It might be, it might not be. But I am, I guess I would say I'm a third of the way through it because I've joined and now all I have to do is the body, but that obviously is more yarn, so I'm probably a third of the way through. I still have all of this. Obviously I'm pulling from the center, so, but this has got to be 20 or 30 grams left, maybe 20 grams left, maybe 30, somewhere in there. I could weigh it, but I don't know where my scale is. And then I still have a whole other skein to go, so very easily gonna get a sweater vest out of 2 skeins. I'll be very curious to see if I can get a sweater vest and have enough for a hat. I don't think that's possible. But sometimes the universe surprises you, so who knows? The other thing I was thinking when I was sculpting these, as it were, is that it's really kind of cool how when you do stacked increases, when you're increasing on every row in the same spot, it actually creates a curved piece of fabric. The fabric no longer can lie flat, which, since our bodies don't lie flat, is really freaking handy. And you think about this when you're doing like a set-in sleeve, a contiguous top-down, and you're sort of creating not just the room for your shoulders, but the shape for your shoulders. And in something like this, you're creating not just, getting to the stitch count you need, but you're creating sort of a place for the girls to live, which is kind of cool. I wonder if people are sort of doing that on purpose, or if it's just an accidental byproduct. I mean, I suppose the really good designers are doing it on purpose, because you put it in the place where you want the sculpting to happen. I don't know. I just know that it's cool. And really kind of useful. Did you see that Carol Feller and Thea Coleman are collaborating they're doing, I think, some sort of a blanket along. I don't know, but it's not going to be something I'm going to do because I'm not going to make a blanket. I'm definitely not going to make a semi-scrappy blanket, but it's freaking cool that they're working together because I like both of them very much. If you're not familiar with either of them, really check them out. Carol Feller is exquisite in her construction. She understands shaping, she understands the human body, she understands how knits move and work on the human body. She's definitely someone I would suggest. Forgot to put my phone on mute, sorry. Checking out. And Thea Coleman is, cables. She's the cable lady. Which is funny because I've never knit one of her pieces. I think I have a cardigan of hers in my favorites that I feel like for next season, at the moment I can't imagine wearing a cabled cardigan. It's not where my sort of fashion is at the moment. Ooh, that was very silly of me, sorry. But it is a place I'd like to go. Cabled cardigan territory. And the one that, if I'm remembering correctly, I'm very curious to see if I am in fact remembering correctly, it's a tie front cabled cardigan. So basically it crosses over and there are ties that you then tie the cardigan together. And it's all over cables. And oh, it's pretty. It's very, very pretty. And I think if I were gonna, I don't feel, it's again not where my fashion is right now. I wouldn't wear it. If it were in my closet right now, I simply wouldn't wear it. However, I feel like I wouldn't be surprised if that's where my wardrobe direction ends up going. Because you go through phases, right? Like sometimes you want something baggy, sometimes you want something fitted. And they're sort of, well, I get very one-dimensional. I tend to do one thing at a time in terms of proportions. Each season, each year, there are some things that are consistent, and then there are some things that change from year to year. And I feel like that could be a direction in the next year or two. I wouldn't be entirely surprised if that were a direction I'd end up going in. Although I still have my brain on, Jared Flood did a variation on a Patton's free pattern that he turned into a zip-up sort of cardigan jacket situation. That again, if I had it in my wardrobe right now, it probably wouldn't get much wear, but there will be a time and a place. There's actually a couple of cool ones. There's another, somebody else has one that it has sort of like a military vibe that is very cool. Again, not a direction I'm in at the moment, but and I move around enough that I have to be not careful, but I really only can fit. I bring a suitcase and a little suitcase, and that's it when I am going somewhere for a year. So if it can't fit, if it's not something that I want to wear every day, it doesn't make the cut. I've started doing this weird thing where I'm moving my finger more than I want to. Every now and again, my body just wants to start doing that, and I have to train it out of it. I don't know why my finger wants to be involved. It doesn't need to be involved. So maybe that's there we go. That's how I'm going to get myself to slow down at the moment. Just focus on not moving that frickin' finger. do things. One, I changed my mind. I went for a stripe. I had gone back and forth about adding a cable, and I decided not to because it would just have been too fussy. And apparently I decided it needed something after all. I don't know why. It was an impulse. I'm not upset about it. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep it. I have to rip back anyway because I screwed up. I'm curious to see whether you can see this. It's one of those, if you don't know, you probably would never notice. If I look at it from afar, I can actually see it and it does bother me. I'd have to go even farther, but I'm pretty sure it's just one of those things. I picked up in the wrong part of the stitch right down here. So that was silly, and usually I'm really careful. Well, I'm mostly careful along a diagonal because I want to make sure I'm picking up in the same part of the stitch, and when you do that, you can see the row of stitches, and it's uninterrupted. And so I usually keep very close track of that. Apparently, when I got down here, I just didn't for 2 stitches, just 2. But I mean, it's right in the center of your body. So the problem is, it's not really a problem, but now that I've gone for, a 1940s stripe situation, 1930s stripe situation, whatever decade that was, I don't know what I'm talking about. Now it needs ribbing on this side if I'm going to do this. I don't really know why. I think it's a balance question. Sometimes you just decide, I don't like this, so I have to fix it. It's not like I don't like it. I would still wear it without, but I think it needs it. Now it wants ribbing at the armholes, which is, this is how much left I have of ball 2. Ball 1 got me to about here. And then I did the neckline, and then I rejoined the yarn down here and continued on. I don't actually have that much left to go. It's so nice to have a garment to like check off of when it's exactly the same garment, so I know the shoulders are in the right place and the everything, and I know that I want an extra like 1.5 inches, because I did the other one a little cropped because I like the tails of a white shirt sticking out underneath that. This one I don't want to do that. I want this to be a little longer so it'll puff out. In fact, I'm probably, don't quote me on this, but I'm probably going to do is balloon body a thing? I don't know if I'm making that term up, but where ribbing is supposed to pull stuff in, but it never really fully, it doesn't. It couldn't. You'd have to go down like an insane number of needle sizes, and even then it's only so much smaller. What I prefer to do, or what I did on the, the very V-neck that I did in Scout, where I just knit the body straight, and then just before starting the ribbing, I did a whole bunch of decreases so that the ribbing itself was unstretched, like maybe 2 centimeters of negative ease. So I think I want to do the same thing on this one, so I get that. I think that will be the right shape for this garment. It's driving me crazy because I didn't plan for it, and when you don't plan for it, I really like the way when this is uncurled, the back curls in even more than so I did do decreases to change the shape to give me a little more of that curved shape on the back. I changed increases and decreases to get that sort of, but when you pull it out, it's not nearly as aggressive as when it's curling in. So I will probably, if I had known in advance I was going to put ribbing on the things, I would have done that even more. And I probably would have made these a tiny bit shorter, because as of now, it sits where I want it to sit, which is sort of like at my, whatever bone that is. Obviously with ribbing, it will then come out to my actual shoulders, which is it's not the end of the world. I just would have done it differently if I had planned for this as opposed to randomly decided that I wanted it. You know, it's because of this. It's because this is sitting on my table where I'm knitting. So I blame geography for this one. I mean, that is an upside. If you have your yarn sort of sitting out, you're more inclined, at least I'm more inclined, to come up with things to do with it. I know, sorry about the lighting, but, you know, I've got the big light on. Hopefully you can, the contrast isn't too bad. If it is, then it is. You're also going to get hitting stuff on the table, so if I can't edit that out, sorry. The other thing I wanted to, before I forget, because I will forget, I always forget, but I'm really happy, as I was the last time, with how the pickup looks, where the pickup is and how it looks. And that's a design feature of this designer. It is not always the case, but I find when there are 2 stitches between, so very often you'll get 1 stitch and then the increase, which means that when you're picking up, the increase is going to be right at the side, which is fine. It's a good look, but I kind of prefer the look when it's one more farther out, so that when you pick up, you have sort of 1.5 stitches. You have at least 1 full stitch, and then you have that half stitch, and it kind of looks like 2 stitches, even though it's not. So I really like that. And the other thing that she has you do, and I'm going to give this part away because I'm sure other designers do this. It's not necessarily a thing, but you do a selvage edge on this, which means that you have, it's basically making your seam a little bit stronger, because instead of picking up right at the edge, you're picking up 1 in, but it's not giving you a lot of extra bulk because it is a slipped stitch on that edge, so it's kind of naturally curling itself in. I love, love, love. And it's on this one too, which is behind me. Obviously, it's the same thing on this one, and it gives you a slightly bigger seam, which I think is good for structural stability. And when you have a V-neck, there is actually a good amount of pull here, so reducing that is never a bad idea. But I don't know. I'm so far really happy with it. I'm slightly annoyed that I have to pick up her sleeves and do for ribbing on the sleeves. I'm really hoping that I don't run out of yarn, because even though that will only take like a couple of grams for each side, because it won't be much. I'm not going to do this much ribbing. I'm going to do, you know, this much ribbing, which is practically nothing. And it'll be like that in terms of size. Pardon my hair. So it'll sort of be like that. I don't know. That might be a silly thing to have done, but we'll find out. But you know, it would be just my luck that I had just enough yarn, and that I don't. Which, I mean, at 380 something yards times 2, I used, I think, 680 yards for this one. I want to do another 2 inches or another 1.5 inches. So it might work. It might be a close run thing. We'll find out soon, very soon, because despite trying very hard to slow down, I'm not. I'm totally not slowing down. I'm blazing through this. The last time I filmed was a day and a half ago. So this is all Sunday. And I didn't spend the whole day knitting by a mile, but I did get some knitting in. So we'll see. I'll keep you posted. I forgot to turn the light on. Always. Testing, 1, 2, 3.